My name is Alex Delaforce. I am the Head of Teaching and Learning Processes at Coomera Anglican College. I hope you find this short presentation interesting. It will highlight some of the recent developments that we have been working on aimed at school improvement. We have been excited to engage with the current improvement process. It gives us the opportunity to align our college priorities, informed practice and the externally mandated requirements of the Australian curriculum and the new QCAA QCE system of assessment. We have also used the process as an excuse to review and update several of our core curriculum administration processes and pedagogical methods. In the Grattan Institute submission to the recent inquiry into school to work transition, Peter Goss said that Australia faces three challenges. When considering the preparation of transitioning of our students to work, these are to improve the teaching of core academic skills and content, to change parts of what we teach and how we teach it to help young Australians develop the skills and capabilities they need for their lives and careers, and to reduce the disparities between educational haves and have-nots. Another statement in the submission that I think holds true is, the best schools in Australia are not necessarily those with the best ATAR or NAPLAN scores. They are those that enable their students to make the greatest progress in learning. Other statements made in the submission include, the measurement of gain is important, learning progress is supportive of and supported by growth mindset approaches, learning gains measurement is valuable in supporting improved teaching. This is similar to Hattie's Know Thy Impact. And Goss calls for additional measurement tools to assess foundation skills, including literacy and numeracy, academic knowledge, cognitive skills such as critical thinking and problem solving, and non-cognitive attributes such as persistence, initiative, leadership, empathy, etc. These points align with many of our ideas and approaches. It's all about the progress a student makes, regardless of the start or end point. This approach supports us in developing practices that encourage, support, and develop good learning, and forces us to look at the factors in teaching as the action that brings about the activity of learning, with the objective of bringing about learning progress. Starting around the middle of 2015, we entered the ISQ Self-Improving Schools scheme. This gave us the opportunity to work on a few priorities. The first was the development of our teaching and learning handbook. This occurred in parallel with our data analysis and data visibility project. It is the case that we were working on these projects prior to our entry to the SIS scheme. However, the methodology of the SIS process certainly allowed us to analyse the relative priorities of our school improvement projects and to focus our efforts. The first edition of the Teaching and Learning Handbook was published in 2016. The data project has been worked on consistently through 2016 and 2017 and is now a major element in our collection, analysis and display of data. The data system is used by staff and students and informs our teaching programs. In due course, our data system will support a student-driven goal setting and mentoring process. Currently within the SIS project, we are redesigning our teaching and learning framework. The current version, which is the one shown, is in need of being aligned with our current work and our current strategic agenda. The work on the framework should be finished soon and will lead directly into a review and reissue of the Teaching and Learning Handbook. Through 2015, we redeveloped the college's strategic approach. This led to the launch of the college strategic agenda in early 2016. The agenda is centered around its clearly defined strategic purpose, which is to inspire excellence in teaching, learning, service and faith. The refocusing that occurred as a result of the strategic agenda has resulted in a range of activities, and in the teaching and learning domain, the chief of these is the 2030 project. The 2030 project was set up by the principal as a challenge to teachers to explore disruptive innovations with the aim of improving student engagement and student ownership of learning from now and for future students, including those entering the college in our early learning centre and prep years who will graduate around 2030. A lot of interest and energy was generated from this initiative, with the result that teachers devised new projects, activities and experiences for students. As a college, the 2030 project inspires us to explore school-wide changes in approach, including problem-based learning, project-based learning, design thinking and inquiry-based learning methods. The 2030 project was always intended to be of persistent value over a long period of time. However, what was set up as a project of exploration and self-analysis has gone from being a project to an approach, and is now a fundamental element of our strategic organisation and function. We now use the term 2030 vision, which is stated as a focus on enabling and empowering our students to have flourishing futures. The review of teaching and learning methods inspired by the original 2030 project is now guiding our college-wide development of inquiry learning. In addition to our school improvement process and the development of our teaching and learning approaches, we have been working to prepare our college and its staff for the new QCE assessment system. A lot has happened over the last couple of years, but key activities related to the QCAA initiative include that we started discussing the underlying pedagogical approaches of the QCAA system around the beginning of 2016. At that time, there was not a lot of information coming out of QCAA on the underpinning principles informing the development of their new systems. However, it became apparent that the Mazzano and Kendall new taxonomy of educational objectives was being used. This was useful for us as we had already used much of Mazzano's work from the art and science of teaching to inform our teaching and learning handbook. During 2016 and 2017, we have used student free days to hold workshops on the Mazzano and Kendall work and the art and science of teaching design approach. In the second half of the year, key staff have attended QCAA curriculum leader training, and we have put our staff through regular locally devised PD on the use of cognitive verbs and the construction of unit level and lesson level learning goals, with particular focus on proficiency scales. Our primary teachers have been identifying and embedding cognitive verbs in learning goals and also putting them into achievement standards and embedding them into the reporting process. So what do we need to do in order to satisfy curriculum needs, college priorities, and the needs of students as they head towards their flourishing futures? Firstly, the what and the how. We need to satisfy the requirements of the Australian curriculum and QCAA's new QCE syllabus and assessment. We have determined a set of graduate outcomes that include skills, strengths, virtues and approaches that we think will serve our graduates well. These include 21st century skills as well as elements of well-being, in addition to traditional outcomes such as academic success and life skills. The habits of mind and habits of heart are included as indicators of having a growth disposition, which we see as a desirable outcome of an education at our college. Service learning is another dimension that we are exploring and which will form an essential element of our college. In common with all schools, we seek to develop and deliver informed teaching and learning practices. In our case, we've decided to develop a college model of inquiry learning. We use the design methodology of the new Art and Science of Teaching. Mazzano and Kendall's new taxonomy of educational objectives guides our approach. And related to these, we have an explicit focus and set of expectations around learning goals and cognitive verb use. We are incorporating positive education and well-being principles and producing student-focused, data-informed pedagogy. To support all of this, we have a system of teacher professional development which is aimed at ensuring highly effective teacher practice. We call this our professional growth model. This includes teacher peer observation, peer coaching, and a 360-degree approach to feedback on teacher practice. We also have our why, which is probably the most important driver of what we do. The most important question when considering what and how to do things is why. In our case, the big why is because we want to inspire excellence. This is our stated strategic purpose around which our strategic agenda is built. Through our programs and actions, we want to enable our students to have flourishing futures. That is, for them to be successful, satisfied, resilient, versatile, creative, and all the other attributes that we wish for our children throughout their lives. This is the core of our 2030 vision. We want to foster student engagement, student ownership of their learning, and thereby enable our students to develop enduring understanding. After a significant process of investigation, we've decided the best way for us to do this is through an inquiry learning approach. So what are we doing now? In primary, we are aligning our teaching with our inquiry learning approach. We are integrating STEM units into each term. We are embedding cognitive verbs into curriculum and reporting. We are refining the use of learning goals to include cognitive verbs, reviewing and developing humanities and science by using inquiry learning approaches, and also exploring innovative teaching and learning methods. In junior secondary, we are designing significant inquiry learning projects, refocusing on formative assessment and rationalizing summative assessment. We are including explicit teaching of cognitive verbs, creating and using unit level and lesson level learning goals in the form of proficiency scales, testing our new approach to progressive reporting, exploring service learning, and continuing with our class observation and peer coaching for professional growth. In senior secondary, we are continuing to deliver current QCAA programs of study, reviewing the recently published QCAA QCE syllabuses, reviewing and designing Year 10 courses for 2018, attending QCAA training during 2017 and 2018, embedding inquiry learning approaches as guided by the new syllabuses, transitioning from the current use and focus on CCEs to a more significant approach using cognitive verbs, and embedding learning goals in the form of proficiency scales in planning and teaching. To support the work that we do, we have produced a range of documents to guide the process, such as guidelines and directives to help with redesigning assessment and the inclusion of inquiry learning. We're designing a new curriculum mapping template to document our curriculum, and we are currently designing a diagram to show the strategic priorities and activities of the college and how the elements inform each other within our approach. Though we have already done a lot of work and will continue to struggle to fit in all the preparation necessary, we have realised the great potential offered, particularly to independent schools, by the current perfect storm of curriculum, education research, brain science and the wealth of information available around different models of pedagogy. So following the statement made by Peter Goss, the question I would pose is, how best can we harness the opportunities offered by the Queensland system to update our processes, inspire our teachers, engage our students, and serve the priorities of our schools and their communities?